Great to be with you again on Locked On Texas Tech on the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day, always free and available on YouTube or anywhere you get podcasts. And great to be back with you for this special edition. It's the Matador Mob Mailbag. Appreciate all you guys out there inside the Matador Mob for submitting the questions. And we've got to use an industry term, a buttload today. So let's get off and rolling, Chris. We're going to begin as we're getting ready for Red Raiders and Bears coming up Saturday, 3 o'clock kick from Jones Stadium. We begin with Matador mobster James, who asks this question. Do you think Joey has any extra anger toward Baylor for passing on him as head coach? What do you think, Chris? Any added fuel to the fire in this matchup?
This game is different for probably Joey and for Dave Aranda. They spent 2 years together on the same staff. It's duly noted that Joey came in second in that race to be the head coach. I think it was probably, and Joey talked about this earlier this week, it's probably a little more awkward or weird last year when they went back to Waco for the first time officially and all that. I think, and now that you're further and further away from as many players and staff members and all that are kind of crossover, I don't think it's probably as awkward as it was. But I do think you would be kidding yourself if you don't think that for both guys there's extra motivation. But I mean, Bookbinder, Cochran, Blanchard, Nance, Bryant. I'm trying to. I'm probably missing some. There's a host of folks on this coaching staff in Lubbock that spent time, graduated from, have a degree from, that were part of that Baylor tenure, and so it probably feels a bit different for all of them, and it's probably a game you don't want to lose, if we're being honest. But it's not like you're circling this one and going, okay, we're pushing all of our chips in the middle of the table for this one game. I don't know if it's like that. And again, Tech is in the position now where they're in the middle of a conference race. You're trying to beat them however you can, and then you worry about the next team and all that. You can't get caught up into a lot of that, but we'd be naive if it doesn't feel a bit different for some of these guys, including not just your head coach, but theirs too.
Yeah. All right. Thanks for that question, James. This one from Nick. If you could add one player to each side of the ball to this year's team, any era, who would it be? Are there some obvious names or maybe a group you're considering, Chris? What do you think?
I would add Louis Vasquez, and I would add Tyree Wilson. The end.
All right. We're not quite cheating off each other's homework, but pretty dang close. The teacher's going to call us in and ask about this, I think, because I was going to say Rylan Reed because of the position. I don't know that he would be the best of that group necessarily, but thinking about a guy on the outside there. And I was thinking about Monte Rager. Why not just dial it all the way back?
Yeah.
But we're both wanting a QB killer added to the mix, right?
Yeah, I would want – I mean, it's funny how football works and how our brains were thinking there. I would want a pressure player off the edge.
Yeah.
And then I would want somebody that could stop the equivalent of that, for this year's team. That's exactly – I mean, because I think that's where you're maybe – I don't want to say vulnerable, but that's probably where you're not as strong as you have been in years past with this particular version. And that's this year's team as it's currently constructed. But I mean, you could do, you could add a whole bunch of different folks and kind of have fun with it. But I'd add a tackle and a defensive end / outside linebacker to get after it. So, yeah.
Honestly, the first name I thought of, the very first name was Dwayne Slade, because I just add him to any team I ever had an opportunity to add him to. But it's probably not the biggest need, if that's even possible to say, about a Big 12 or a Big 12 Defensive Player of the Year. So I did kind of have to move to one of those guys up there off the edge. But there's some other mentions as well between a Rager and a
I mean, heck, man, you could say for this year's team. I mean, what if you had another year Rabbit?
Yeah, true.
I mean, with what has ailed them, he'd fix a lot of that. But I don't know if that fixes maybe the biggest problem, which is just getting after the QB and somebody you have to game plan for every play. We've got to know where that dude is, which helps everybody. And Tyree was a freak when he was healthy. So anyway, but yeah, how about that? I did have Adrian Waddle and LaRaven Clark as 1A, 1B, and Vasquez was 1. But Rager can be 1A for me any day of the week, man.
It's pretty good 1A.
Yes, it is.
Yeah. Thinking about guys like Aaron Hunt, Brandon Williams. I even had the name Colby Whitlock cross my mind. We're thinking trenches big time, it sounds like, from any era. Let us know what names may be coming to mind for you. Thanks to Nick for that question. This question, a two-parter from a nameless Matador mobster, which is kind of the mobster way. See, I don't want my name in the paper, see? Who says, how are we feeling about the year so far for Ben Roberts? And part number 2, can we keep Taj at less than 20 touches this weekend? What do you think?
I think Ben's been solid. I think he's had some good games, some games that I think that he and Coach Bookbinder / Tim DeRuiter feel like, okay, we need to be a bit better there. He's been very solid. I think he's one of the best players consistently on your defense. I think sometimes, Ben would tell you this. Maybe he struggles in coverage a little bit when he's asked to be put in space and all those things. But this is just a really smart football player. Loves the game. He's a hunter. He's a fisher. He watches a ton of movies. He's got a great stash. I mean, what's not to like? I think his best football is yet to come. People forget. I mean, he's still very early in his tenure here.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of room to grow and all that. And he's been pretty darn good to this point. Taj, less than 20. Is that what you said?
That's the number, less than 20.
It's impossible to know that, because if it takes 42 carries to win, guess what? I mean, 43, 44. I mean, whatever it takes to secure the victory. Ideally, no doubt, you would blow up on these folks. You'd have him sitting over there without his shoulder pads on, and
bucket hat.
Bucket hat, drink with an umbrella in it, whatever, just kicking back, and in the second half or the fourth quarter, whatever, But that's not the situation you've gotten in. Aside from the North Texas game. So I just, and he can handle this. I do think there's a diminishing returns we've talked about at some point if you continue to ride it, but you're in the thick of it, and you've got to, and Taj doesn't want to be sitting over there. It's like, I'll worry about, whatever, later, but give me the damn ball, or let me pick up the blitz, something, put me in the game, that deal.
We'll sleep when we're dead kind of thing.
Yes.
All right. Thanks for those questions. Got a couple here from Mike. First, why do we not see Dre McCray returning punts?
I think he had a hard time. It's a different skill set. I think they tried it out. I think when Kenny Perry's been asked about this, it's very different from a kickoff. I don't think he fielded them as well. It's a bit of a different dynamic. And I think that, plus I think they wanted to get some other folks touches, i.e. Josh Kelly.
Yeah.
And just trying to get more of their skill players involved a bit. So, because you forget, on a kickoff, there's nobody around you. On a punt, you could have 4 people just breathing, snorting, and just like, this is my oxygen. Leave it for me. But you got guys just bearing down on you, and your chin's up in the air, and the balls, and so it's just a very different skill set. So that's ultimately why.
When are we gonna get together for a Matador Mob meetup to grab some beers? In the future, I'll just answer that one. Future.
Okay. Right.
Next question: Can we expect any more unique uniforms this year? Outside of the Colorado game, Mike says he's digging the galvanized unis. You think any other atypical looks?
No, I think this will be the one that you get. I think that you hadn't even run through all of your base stuff. I think what's interesting is, does the galvanized uniform stay in the rotation? Is there a different version of it next year? Do you start? I mean, what do you start fiddling with the Mahomes aspect. Because as far as I know, until somebody tells me differently, I believe this was Pat's design. This is what Pat, wanted or had his fingerprints on, and what I just remember Joey telling me at a coach's show one time, whenever the Adidas thing got announced like a year ago, he's like, I think he said to the audience, he's like, and if y'all don't like the Mahomes uniform, don't get mad at me. Pat picked it, because everybody's got an opinion on the uniforms.
Always.
It's either a thumbs up, thumbs down, or they should have done this, or I missed this version of that, or whatever. So, but you'll continue to get tweaked uniforms as we go here. That's part of this deal. I think that's something that Pat wants to be involved with. He wants his brand and Texas Tech's brand to kind of be one of those schools that like you always got to be paying attention, because it's always there's always something new coming or something going on there. And I think that they are one of Adidas's lead brands now in the college space because of Pat. And so I think with that comes with some bells and whistles. But I think that this is it for this year. So we'll see.
And I know that Patrick watches the show daily. So Pat, how about this little double T right here? Up over my shoulder, slap it on something. Let's have a party. He also asked, are we going to see Eddie Smith wreck an opposing offensive line this year? A lot of talk about him. You think an opportunity could be coming up soon? First, today's episode brought to you by Hims. Sometimes intimate moments happen spontaneously, and we always want to be ready and at attention. Hims provides access to treatments that can help you stay ready for the call of duty anytime, giving you the boost of confidence you need to be at your best. Ever feel like you need a little boost? It's time to stop worrying and get Hims. Hims is changing men's healthcare by providing you with access to affordable sexual health treatments from the comfort of your couch. Plus, the process is 100% online, so there's no need for uncomfortable doctor's visits. Just answer a series of questions on their site, and a medical provider will determine the right treatment option. If prescribed, your medication ships directly to you in discreet packaging for free. No insurance needed, and one low price covers everything from treatments to ongoing care. With hundreds of thousands of trusted subscribers, Hims can help you find the option that works for you. So start your free online visit today at hims.com/lockedon. That's HIMS.com/lockedon for your personalized treatment options at hims.com/lockedon. The products mentioned are chewable compounded products which are not approved by or verified for safety or effectiveness by the FDA. Prescriptions require an online consultation with a healthcare provider who will determine if appropriate. Restrictions apply. See our website for details and important safety information. Subscription required. Price varies based on product and subscription plan. Are we going to see Eddie Smith wreck an opposing offensive line this year? A lot of talk about him. You think an opportunity could be coming up soon?
Well, he's got his 4 games. I think I think they had looked at a variety of options before last game because of their injury situation. I think with their injury situation going into this game, it's not as likely. I'll go back to Tim DeRuyter even saying this in front of the media the other day. Get all these guys available to play, even then they can maintain the red shirt. Is there a position you're looking at? And I think he called out safety as one that they were still looking at. Malika Skara and Peyton Morgan were 2 that, but I think because right now you got Charles Anderson, you got Eddie Smith, and you got Cheto Feely, you've got some other, Isaiah Crawford, but you've got Esters and Dyson and Tillman and now Isaac Smith, and you've got Mayor Washington, Rigsby. I mean, there's only so many snaps in a football game. So
yeah,
I can't wait for when they unleash Eddie Smith, because remember the name. That's all I'll say. Remember the name. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Thank you for those questions, Mike. Jarrett asks this question: taking my 6- and 5-year-old to Lubbock for their first game. What are your suggestions so they're indoctrinated and don't end up at Xerox State? And good on you, Jarrett. Good on you for thinking.
I was about to say that may be a shot at me since that's where my daughter goes to school. I lost her to the
lost a good one.
I know. But hey, man, they grow up and you got to let them do their own thing. I didn't want.
You got to let them make their own mistakes.
I know. That's right. Yeah, that's right. I make sure you get there in time to catch all the pomp and the circumstance. And then you can't this can't be an isolated. I think one of the problems with my kids is they were at everything all the time and it wasn't new to them. They were just so used to it. It's like, man, there's a whole big old world out here outside of the 806. And so I probably, in a way, maybe didn't do myself any favors by having them around at everything when they were like, 5 and 6 years old, all the way up to now, 21 and 17 is what my kids' age are now.
Yeah.
But keep bringing them back. Just don't overdo it, I guess is my point. Don't overdo it. And go get some cotton candy. Make sure you hold your guns up whenever pregame, postgame, and all that stuff become part of the tradition. Buy a pack of tortillas, take them, toss them, try to hit somebody on the sidelines in the head, namely me. It doesn't matter. And get involved. Yeah.
There you go. Part of my answer was going to be get them up close and personal with Chris Level, which may have been like the thing like you're talking about with your kids. They were just always up close and personal, so didn't really make an impression on them. But to most of us peons, it makes quite the impression. And I agree with Chris. Just get in there for all the pomp and circumstances. You want to see the masked rider, obviously. You want to see those drum majors kicking it back, getting down the field. And I would even say maybe if you get there early enough, typically outside the Frazier Alumni Pavilion, southwest corner of the Jones, the masked rider will be standing out there taking pictures and whatnot, so you can actually get up close and personal. Possibly, I don't know what the schedule is, but I typically see her and the horse hanging out there outside the Frazier prior to the game. So just take it all in and then make it a repeat performance. I would certainly agree with that. All right, thanks for that question, Jarrett. Another nameless mobster asks this question: is there a strategy to wait closer to early signing day to make a bid for the right players? Was also asking, has there been a recruiting shift with the NIL monies for high school players? I'm sure there have been lots of shifts, Chris, but what do you think about that one particular mentioned?
Yeah, I think what they're talking about is, I think there was a lot of money offers being made back in like May and June, okay, to prospects, and like, which goes against kind of the way it was. But hey, it's like you come here, we got an offer, you need to go meet with our collective, we'll see what we can do, or you're like Texas Tech, and it's like, okay, we can't really get into that, but hey, if you just Google it, you can understand that every player here is part of the Matador Club and gets this much. I mean, it's all out there in the open for all to see on the old internets. But I think what has been confusing to some, including the folks that are in charge of the sport or in charge of deciding what their recruiting class is going to look like, is the house case, like kind of off into the distance, but now becoming very close proximity wise as far as the timetable. Nobody really understood what this was going to look like. And so I think part of the question is collectives may go away. So when schools are offering money, it's almost like we're promising you what portion of the cap that hadn't even been approved at this point will be. And I think that's where maybe the question maybe comes from, because if you have this much money, a lot of schools were maybe offering true freshmen, or these soon-to-be true freshmen, a lot of money to get them. But then you're thinking to yourself, well, if I offer all these kids that haven't done a thing yet this much money, I'm only going to have so much to allocate to the juniors and seniors are really good players, ones that have been here for 3 or 4 that have earned it. So that's maybe where the question comes in, or where the confusion comes in. And I don't know if everybody's got a full grasp on that yet. That's going to be fascinating. But I believe that this is further along now. I don't think it's like totally approved, but I think it's been signed off on by the judge that was looking at this case. And I think you're going to get into January and February, but this is something that would be instituted late into the next spring. And that's what includes roster limits. It includes a salary cap, if you will. And it's up to each institution how you handle that money. Gotcha. Like here's the total dollar figure. You compensate your athletes. Good luck. Go for it. And again, we've talked about this. Okay, how much now? If I'm Kirby, or I'm the Regents, or whoever's going to be in charge here, how much of this money do I allocate to football? How much does basketball get? How much does baseball get? And what most schools are doing, it's based on the business. Who brings in the most revenue? and that's who gets the most of this salary cap. So it's really going to be the bulk of this. I mean, I would be willing to tell you that 90% maybe of this money would go to two sports.
Mm-hmm.
But that's just me guessing. But they will. I think most schools will try to run it like a business, and all those things. So anyway, I hope I haven't confused anybody. But that's kind of where that. Has there been a shift in strategy? I don't know. I think you're trying to do a better job of explaining it about what you were promised versus what is reality. I think you're trying to stay with lines of communication with players that are interested in you. And there'll be some on campus this weekend that are committed to other schools that, maybe you've just kind of continued to plug away with. So hell if I know on all of it, I mean, but I tried to give you what I would know and all that at the time, but there's so many, each situation is different. And we got one hand tied behind our back, understanding how the whole sport is about to change. This will fill up a lot of you and I's time in the spring as we get used to a brand new set of rules here and potential roster cuts. As these rosters look a little bit smaller.
No doubt. All right, that took a lot of brain power to dig into that answer there. So why don't you just take this next one off, Chris? I can answer this one from Joshua, who asks, any Matador Mob gear coming soon? Would be proud to rep the mob. Hats, T-shirts, stickers. We are working on a specialized Matador Mob mankini. I can let you know that now. Extra large only, though, if you know what I'm saying. We need a good stretch of fabric to get that logo on there, so make sure that you fit the bill. This question from Cameron. You have any thoughts on the mankini, Chris? I was just going to move on. I didn't know if you.
I'd wear a hat. I don't know about a mankini, banana hammock, or I forgot what they're all called. Yeah, I mean, yeah, it's. I
just want to give you a chance to weigh in.
Yeah, that's
right. This question from Cameron. Do you think after this season, Joey will be able to retain the main guys in the GM's office? First, today's episode brought to you by FanDuel. And NFL fans, you can start this season with a big return on FanDuel, America's #1 sports book. Say you're watching the game, you get hit with a hunch, an instinctual calling. Well, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you're going to place your bets to keep up with everything going down in real time as you submit that slip. And right now, FanDuel is going to get you started with $200 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place your first $5 bet. That's right. $200 in bonus bets guaranteed with only a $5 bet out the gate at FanDuel.com. Do you think after this season, Joey will be able to retain the main guys in the GM's office? Curious about the coordinators as well. These are guys, at least we've heard about from the personnel department, that have had some folks making a run at them so far. So what do you think? I mean, more success? Seems like more they'll be sought after.
Yeah, I mean, that's right. I mean, Notre Dame has made a run at James Blanchard. USC has made a run at James Blanchard. He's got a new contract. He is very well compensated, very well, secure. I think there's some, I believe there's some buyout stuff in there. Don't hold me to that, but I believe that is accurate. But at some point, yeah, this is kind of what happens. If you were to go on and have a special year, people want to see what is going on. And it's actually very surprising that you've been able to largely keep your staff intact for as long as you have with your coordinators, with the continuity. But this is what happens when you can get really good, is when you're able to keep the continuity and you're not, because I mean, I guess what you've switched to offensive line coaches, but what else has been switched over the last 3 years? That may be it.
We had a wide receiver coach switch.
That's true. Yeah. So those are the only two. So assistants. Yeah, it's a good call, Cowan.
Is that it?
Juice, and you had him replaced in less than a day. It's like, you already, one of those deals. And they can't play offense at Oklahoma right now. It's kind of,
you noticed that?
Somewhat funny to watch, actually.
Yeah.
How about that? You're Oklahoma. You basically escort Dylan Gabriel from the building. Like, hey man, I'm sorry, we're going to stick with this Jackson Arnold guy. Dylan, go lead the Heisman Trophy voting. Go lead Oregon to a #1 ranking and a monster win and everything. and the guy that we're going to replace you with, he's now benched. I mean, what a giant mess that is. But
Well, you
that's
hate to see it for Oklahoma. It's tearing me up inside.
Breaks my heart.
That's right.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you for that question there, Cameron. This one from Jared. First request: who do I need to badger to make sure that Gavin Black has at least been put in front of the right eyes to be recruited, or at least considered? I believe this is a Permian Panther.
Yeah, they're Permian's, I believe, undefeated. I think that's right, or close to it. I think he's this is a running back that, I think he just coming off of a game recently where he had like a couple hundred yards rushing. Gavin follows me on Twitter, so shout out to Gavin Black there. So here's the dynamic you get into. Part of this is something we've already talked about. One, James Blanchard and his Brian Nance. That particular department is who you would need to bend the ear of, or tell Gavin Black or Gavin Black's coach to, hey, contact him. Okay. Yeah. But here's all the things at play when it comes to, because I think the kid is a good player. I don't know who else is involved and all those things. And I would be floored if Texas Tech didn't already know about him and every other player in this part of the state. But here's what you get into. You are about to cut down on spots on this roster. There is not going to be 25 to 30 preferred walk-ons anymore. This is about to be trimmed down substantially. And that sucks for fringe kids or kids that are trying to be recruited. And then you get into also like, well, we took 2 running backs last year. I don't know, how many running backs, and I'm assuming that everybody would be recruiting this young man as a running back. So there's just all kinds of dynamics at play on what may or may not be happening, on why, because I think people get offended. People get their feelings hurt. People like, well, they don't think he's, and sometimes, okay, to be fair, Tech has screwed it up. They've botched it, or they've chosen wrong. Prime example is the quarterback battle this weekend. It's up for debate on if they chose right or not. But they clearly picked Baron Morton over Sawyer Robertson. The previous staff did.
Yeah.
They had a choice. They were taking one. We choose you, and we're going to get you. Now, if Baron picks somebody else, you could have screwed it up, and then you're left with nothing. But they clearly had these, and I don't know how many other folks were in that mix, but they weren't taking 2 QBs in that class. That's just kind of how the game is played. But there's limited spots. I was looking at it. Tech is at 18 commitments. You're taking a smaller class anyways, because you're going to have to trim your roster a bit. And I think that, you forget about the Jason Llewellyns last year, the Javion Wilcoxes, you may have to have Cam Brown. These were all walk-ons last year that were, came from 4-star kid came from TCU, 4-star kid came from Oklahoma. Cam Brown, we need a gadget quarterback. These are walk-ons that aren't even on scholarship this year. So you see what I'm saying? There's only so much you can add. So I'm trying to just paint the total picture there. I don't think it's any offense to Gavin Black, but again, James Blanchard, Brian Nance, those guys, Sean Kinney, that whole crew would be who you would need to reach out to, or have Gavin's coach reach out to them.
All right. Thanks for the question, Jared. Justin asks this question, with consideration of standing room only, grass area packed in, what used to be the grass area in the north end zone, could Tech capacity still hit 65,000? This is probably an answer that we don't exactly have, but what do you think?
I don't know if you can, and because there is no, I don't know, Calvin, you tell me, is there an area where you can have a little overflow or some gathering that aren't like seats or suites or anything? I mean, really where a lot of it is that the lower level, where the South Club level, the first floor, because they can stash a lot of people there because they're just kind of. But see, even then, you got to have a ticket to the game to get down there and hang.
Yeah.
So I don't know if it could, to be honest with you. And maybe I'm
shy.
Yeah,
a little shy of that.
Yeah.
This question from Roy is: Jacob Rodriguez in Arizona the best solo defensive performance we've seen since Dwayne Slay against K-State? I don't even know what Slay's stats were against K-State. That may have been the only tackle he made all day. I doubt it, but he knocked Allen Everidge into another dimension, so we remember it. He may have had other better games. I don't know, but How do you kind of rate what you've seen among individual defensive performances compared to Rodriguez and Tucson?
Yeah, because I think the thing about Slay that year was that was simply one of I want to say 8 or 9 forced fumbles.
Yeah,
he was Big 12 Defensive Player of the Year. He's a great example too of the typical, and you could even add transfer into it now, but like junior college player back then, because year one, he didn't hardly do anything. He was barely on special teams. And then the light comes on. I mean, it just came out of nowhere. The light comes on. It's like, this dude is a monster. And it's like, and that's all the questions were at the time was like, wow, why were we not playing him last year? He didn't know. He just, didn't grasp everything and just hadn't earned the trust and all that stuff. Jacob Rodriguez put together a very complete game. And I think you view it differently simply because of the play that he makes at the end.
Yeah.
If not for that particular play, you just chalk it up as a really solid game. But it's the game-changing play that you'll file that in the back of your memory and remember this one. Because, I mean, Callan, like that's Dwayne Slay's hit on Allen Everidge. That was 19 years ago, folks. 19. I don't know if the highlight of Jacob Rodriguez poking the ball from Tetaroa McMillan will be top of mind awareness 19 years ago or 19 years from now.
Yeah.
But that's what makes it different. And, there's not been too many guys that have had those kinds of game-changing plays, which is what it was. I don't even know if Slay's was something that won you the game. I think you were actually hammering Kansas State at the time. It was blowout city by that time. And Allen Everidge, he had never stepped on a football field since.
Thank you for that question. Appreciate that one from Roy. This one from Bob. I know Tech is a mentally tough team with all the wins they've gutted out this year, but do you think we need a stomp on their throat game versus a Big 12 opponent to show ourselves we can win that way also? I'd take it.
Well, absolutely, I'd take it. Yeah, I mean, sign me up. And if you can get that, you take it and run. BYU's getting a lot of credit for covering in all of their games. They've won their games handily. I think there's people that don't necessarily believe in you because you're winning close and all those things. But as long as you get a result, I really don't care. For all the reasons like about Taj and rest and just my stress level, Coach Cowan's stress level, all that stuff, I'd take the North Texas scenario well into Christmas if we could get that every Saturday. I mean, sign me the freak up for that. Yes.
Claire asks this question. I don't mean to hit on a sore subject. How are y'all surviving with the Cowboys this year? And then she also asked about thoughts or insights on the weather for the game on Saturday. We could just cruise right on past that hurtful first question if you want.
Well, we're both used to it.
Yeah, I'm numb.
Yeah, I mean,
I'm numb.
I care. That's the one program or team that I feel like I get to watch football of and sit back and just be a fan.
Yeah.
That's the only one. And so I try to keep those windows. Calvin knows this because when we are setting up our schedule for taping with each other and all that, I politely ask, hey, can we work it around the Cowboy window? I may be a little more lenient on those times going forward if the Cowboys, but yeah, I grew up in the Metroplex. My grandfather had season tickets at Texas Stadium. I mean, I've been following this deal since the 70s. Billy Joe Dupree, Ed Too Tall Jones. I mean, Doug Cosby, Danny White. I mean, way back in Roger. I mean, I just was ingrained into me. But I'm just the owner is very smart. He's very wealthy, but he's an idiot when it comes to running a football team. And I'm resigned to that. But I'm a sucker for it. I won't quit. Yeah, I won't give up on him. But it's painful. Yes, it's embarrassing actually lately. Very, very embarrassing.
We went ahead and rolled on the episode a little early. Last Sunday, you might guess. I think right around mid-second quarter or something. Like, all right, let's go ahead and get into it.
We didn't miss a thing other than a bunch of Detroit touchdowns.
What do you think of the weather, man? Because we could wind up, I guess, in a wet circumstance. And I was kind of surprised to hear also Coach McGuire talk about how the advantage in a rainy game, he felt like goes more to the offense because they know where they're going and the defense doesn't, which is absolutely the opposite of what I always assumed. I thought it was much more difficult for an offense to execute what they want to do in inclement weather versus a defense. But I was kind of curious to hear him say that.
Yeah, because I know what my route's going to be. You don't know. You're guessing. And if I, try to juke you, I already knew I was going to juke you. You're having to
Yeah.
react to what I'm doing. Okay, so there's that whole dynamic. I think the team that runs the ball the best is the way it benefits, which would be Texas Tech coming to this game. I think Baylor's somewhat struggled there, which I'm sure they're going to try to get right, and they've probably worked on that a ton. Here's what would concern me about weather, especially a delay. In some ways, it's better for the home team because you're in your own facilities. You can, the nutrition aspect, getting warmed up and using the indoor, hanging out. The opposition's got to go, in a closed, tight visitors locker room. But where it would hurt you if you deal with a lot of weather and a delay because of lightning, or whatever, is the crowd. It just will suck the juice out of the place. And if there's a delay, not everybody comes back. It's like, yeah, you know what? I don't want to sit out here and get wet. I'll just go home. So there's some give and take there if the weather were to affect the actual game. But style of play, I think you would probably slightly benefit there because of your ability to run the football, as long as Taj and everything else is rolling. So.
All right. Thank you for that question, Claire. And we'll act like you didn't ask about the Cowboys so we can stay friends. Jason asks this question. I'm curious what a day in the life of Chris Level is like. Does he see the coaches and players every day? Any bullet points on what your day or job consists of, Chris?
Well, I'm like Cowan here. I've got like 6 different jobs. We both juggle a lot. And as far as my tech responsibilities during a football season, I guess I'm up at there's media stuff on a Monday, a Tuesday, Wednesday's nothing, Thursday night I'm with Joey and whatever, and then Friday there's some meetings that I attend pre-broadcast that radio and TV people would attend, and then there's the game on a Saturday, and then you rinse and repeat. So I'm not up there every day, but it sure feels like it. I mean, I'm coming and going a lot. And then, Cowan and I are doing our thing with this. I've got a day job. So does Cowan. It's football season is like fun, but it's stressful. It's like, hey man, did you enjoy your weekend? I'm like, yeah, I worked all weekend. Like what? Yeah, I mean, literally. And it's fun. And we signed up for it. And it's and it's so much better when you're winning. We are all over the dang place all the time in the fall months. And for me, it spills into, I'm about to get into my busiest time of the year when men's basketball gets going at Tech, because it all is happening at the same time.
Yep.
And yet nothing stops. It's like we're going to add more to the deal because there's a couple of weeks here where you've got a Friday night basketball game. In fact, after this Baylor game, your last 2 home football games, there's Friday night basketball games the night before those, to which my head really gets spinning and I really get stressed out. And I sometimes get sick because I'm not taking care of myself, not getting enough sleep, and I can't remember how to compartmentalize very well. And I wish I was better about that. But I know Cowan's got his own stuff. But yeah.
Well, he did mention aspiring sports commentators and or journalists as a reason for asking that question. And I would just, like Chris was saying, go ahead and let them know they're going to have a job that pays also. So you're going to have
yeah, I mean,
juggle a couple of things.
These are all part-time gigs. It's one of many gigs. But what people don't understand is how much preparation comes into beforehand it's not just the game. Yeah. Okay, the red light comes on. Okay, talk for 3 hours or whatever. No, that's not how it works. There's a lot of preparation, and that sucks up a lot of time too. And you've got to have, and it doesn't pay a ton, and you travel a lot, and there's a lot of to spend a lot of time away from your family, and you're up late at night and all that stuff. But that's just part of it.
And I guess it's Friday when you sit down with DeRuiter and Kitley and tell them what you want them to call. Or is that?
It's Friday, and that's when I tape. A lot of times I tape pregame interview with Joey McGuire. Yeah. That's part of our responsibilities for broadcast, and TV would be meeting with them. But call more touchdown plays, guys.
Call the touchdown plays.
Call the touchdown prevent plays, Tim.
That's right.
Yeah,
Delivery can call the kill the quarterback plays.
Yeah, we need more of those. Yeah.
Thank you for that question, Jason. Let's get to this one from Michael. Can you think of anything more soothing than the dulcet tones of Dave Aranda's voice?
I have watched his press conference the last month or so.
Yeah,
it is very interesting. I think he's a great defensive coordinator. That cannot be disputed. Wisconsin, LSU, Utah State. I mean, he's made a name for himself of coordinating phenomenal defenses. Cannot be. You just wonder in today's day and age when you've got to motivate, you've got to get kids to give you more than maybe they think they're capable of. If he's wired in such a way that can get the max out of them all the time. I think that's a fair question to ask because of how zen he is.
Right.
Yeah. So,
thank you for that question. I think you'd be a great ASMR reader at some point in the future if football doesn't work out. Thank you, Michael. Clayton asks, do we see a lesser tight end role for Conyers? More of a hand in the ball, take the snap role? Tended to think he's not the best blocker. Tharp and Miller bring more to the tight end room specifically. What do you think? I'm not so sure I would buy into that.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think he continues to be – I think he's actually gotten better at the blocking. I think he's kind of turned himself into a more all-around tight end, but you're going to still see them hand it to him. I think that's going to be a weapon that Zach Kittley has in his back pocket for the remainder of the season. Hence the reason you're not seeing as much of Cam Brown, but I think you'll continue to use – I mean, what is he, third on the team in targets and catches is Jalen Conyers, and then he's got a couple of – all the carries and some of the goal line stuff that you've had. I mean, he's a very important player for you. So,
yeah. All right. Let's see here. Thank you for that question, Clayton. Ed asks this question. Looking at the upcoming schedules, looks like BYU, Iowa State have the easiest paths to the championship game. Does Tech have to win out? Could just one loss make it? I know we've kind of kicked this around before, what we feel like that would need to look like.
I personally don't think you have to win out. But again, you're projecting a bit there. I just think, and again, granted, the Iowa State Texas Tech head-to-head matchup is going to factor into this deal. If you can win that game and then also give them a loss, it's twofold because you not only have a win over them and you're going to get a lot of juice from that, but you also give them a loss, which allows you for a little more margin for error. You've got a head-to-head tiebreaker. So if there's two teams sitting there with one loss and they're you and Iowa State, guess who gets to go if there's only one spot left because you've got the head-to-head matchup over them. So I don't mean to focus so much on that game. That's just the one game that's going to, bear the most fruit, period. But I can't imagine there's three teams at the end of this deal with either 0 or 1 losses. I don't, but maybe there's a team that can roll it, and there's two teams sitting there with 1 loss, and it comes down to a tiebreaker. If so, I think if that is the scenario, you'd probably be in really good shape to get two teams into the playoff.
Yeah. Yeah, hadn't we thought about that part of it? All right, Ed, thank you for that question. Jeremy asks, does Baylor or Tech benefit more from the bye week? Think there's a difference for either one?
I'll answer you at about 6:30 on Saturday afternoon.
Fair enough.
Because somebody will play better than the other one, and you'll go, "Wow, they really benefited." I mean, both teams have gotten healthier. One team's chemistry or timing could be. I mean, who the heck knows, man? I mean, Baylor had to sit in it for 2 weeks after a tough loss in Ames. That can't be a lot of fun. Tech's challenges trying to get healthy and then also just keep their edge and not feel too good about yourself. You probably benefited from the standpoint of not having a quick turnaround after getting home early in the morning on Sunday morning after the Arizona win. So in some ways, you're probably benefiting from a timing standpoint that you didn't have a game last weekend. But yeah, man, that's a question that will best be served to answer at about 6:30 to 6:45 on Saturday afternoon in the LBK.
All right. Thank you for that question, Jeremy. This one from Mark. Once Tech makes bowl eligibility, Mark's talking crazy talk. Would we see Mr. Brooks play with him possibly going to the NFL? Come on, Mark.
Yeah, he's going to play it out. Yeah, I don't in any way think that he's somebody that would, if you get into a situation to where you are not in the conference race, you're mathematically eliminated, and there was something, I wouldn't rule out if the wheels were to come off and you're going to a bowl game that was just, man, I could see, and I would actually support it. I'm like, dude, you gave us all you had. Get right, go train, be here on the sideline, clap, whatever, and let's see what Cameron Dickey and Jacoby Williams can do. But short of that, I think he's here for the duration. I think that's just the way it goes. So.
All right. Thank you for that question, Mark. And what the hell is a mailbag episode if we don't mention the name Micah Hudson? So let's kick this dead horse to wrap up the program. And Wayne, who asks this question, basically even says that, gentlemen, I know this is like kicking a dead horse. Why do you want to kick the horse, Wayne? It's already dead. But it seems we've just burned a year of Hudson's eligibility for not a whole lot of return. I don't know if there's a question in there. It's just mostly a statement, I guess. But we're 6 games in, Wayne. He just made his biggest play of the year the last time out. How the hell do we know that we haven't gotten a whole lot of return just yet?
Right. And the funny thing is, okay, so say you had decided to redshirt him. Can you imagine the old talk around the water cooler as it relates to Micah Hudson then? Like,
oh, yeah.
Like, guy's a bust. It's like, what are we doing? We all got sold a bill of goods.
That's right.
So there's no, yeah.
His time will come.
Yeah, and he's not in any hurry. They are not in any hurry. You are more than fine right now. I think we're having a much different conversation next year when Josh Kelly leaves, and then there's some more, and Dre McCray leaves. And you've got some more opportunities, with Coy Aiken and Caleb Douglas still being back, and it's time. Don't forget about a guy like Tyson Turner either. He's a freshman that I think has been very, very impressive. There's a lot of young receivers that, Crest, West, Valson, that recovered the onside kick at the end of the game.
Yep.
There's a variety of folks in that mix. It's not just Micah Hudson, and I know everybody wants to talk about him, but yeah.
If a tree falls in the woods and doesn't make a sound, if a mailbag episode is done and Micah Hudson is not mentioned, did you even do the episode? Well, we have now.
Yeah,
all right, appreciate all you guys for the boatload of questions. Our bucket is empty, so we'll need to refill it next week. Chris, appreciate all the time, man, and all the insight. Enjoyed it, and we'll see you for the next one.
Yeah, we need a commercial break here at some point there, but I guess we're just going to wrap it up. Maybe I appreciate the questions. Love doing these. They are fun. Sorry we took so long. I'm long-winded on occasion, just trying to explain. Keep hope alive, everybody. Talk to you next time.
Yes, sir. And get subscribed on YouTube or anywhere you get podcasts so you never miss an episode. And get in to the Matador Mob. Become an insider there by checking out the show notes. Hit the link. Try on a free 14-day trial. It's your direct line to Chris and myself, and maybe Mankini's to come. So you never know what might the future hold. All right, for Chris, I'm Casey. Thanks for the time. We appreciate y'all being out there, and hope to see you back for the next round on Locked On Texas Tech.